Welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 37. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory. How you doing, Dory?
Hello, I'm doing well. Finally getting over all the sicknesses I had throughout fall. Um, the runny nose is pretty much gone. I only cough sporadically now, and my voice is back to normal. So incredible. It only took me, I don't know, 4 months of getting sick off and on. But yeah, on a more serious note, like want to give a shout out to just all the people struggling with the horrible fires that were going on in the West Coast right now. Obviously, especially in California, it's affecting a lot of people. So I hope everyone's doing okay. Obviously, there's a lot of ice storms going on too in the Midwest. So I hope everyone's doing okay with that. Seen some really nasty photos out there and nasty news and stuff. So it's just that kind of time of year where we get a lot of crazy weather. And yeah, I just hope everyone's doing well. This week we're going to talk about. We're actually going to kick things off with what we've been playing. And then we also have a lot of news about CES 2025, about Lenovo and the Switch 2, a bunch of other stuff. There's some weird PlayStation news, but we're also going to talk about GDQ, awesome games done quick, which is starting to wrap up. So yeah, we've got a lot of awesome runs to highlight and awesome games to talk about. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, this is a very I would say hardware focused episode. We usually don't talk about hardware this much, but because it's the Consumer Electronics Show, there is a lot of news this week. So, but before we get into all that, let's talk about what we've been playing. So I'll start off with mine first. We'll do one game at a time. That way, I'm not talking the whole time. First of all, I started playing Half-Life, the original 1998 one on my Steam Deck, and it's fantastic on the Steam Deck. It runs really well, a high frame rate. I mean, it's a game from 1998, so of course, but it plays very well. Um, I use the sticks to play to aim and stuff. I could use the touchpads because it has gyro and all that, but I prefer to use the sticks, and it plays fantastic. And it's one of the best games of all time. It's one of those like must play computer games. Obviously, we're all waiting for Half-Life 3. But in the meantime, my goal for this year is to get Half-Life 1 and 2 and Episode 1 and 2 completed again this year, and also Half-Life Alyx. I want to go through the whole series, just and possibly Portal as well. So this is my first step, and I think this game holds up really well. I mean, obviously it's a game from the '90s, but I think the atmosphere, uh, and the environment is really awesome. Like the gameplay is pretty good. Obviously it shows its age with the character models, of course, and like all the character models of the scientists are all exactly the same as each other. But that's not really a big deal because I think everything else is so strong in this game, and I think Gordon Freeman's a great protagonist, even if he's dead silent. Like he's just silent protagonists are pretty good for me. I don't ever had an issue with that. So I think overall it's a great game. So it's a classic. I watched my dad play it when I was a little kid. This is like back in '98 on PC, so it is a classic. So, all right, Dory, you've been playing another classic '90s game around the same time as well. Uh, this actually came out in 2000, but it was worked on in the '90s. But either
Yes.
way, you've been playing Deus Ex, the original.
Yeah.
So tell us about it, please.
This was a couple of weeks ago. Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah. Few weeks ago, I was scrolling through YouTube and I was just going through some recommended, and I saw H Bomber Guy, who is really cool. He does a lot of great video essays that are incredibly long. Did a charity for trans folks back in, I want to say, 2020, featuring Donkey Kong 64. So great guy. Had a 3.5 hour video about why Human Revolution was just an okay game, and that was okay. And I was interested because I was like, okay, I hear really good things about Human Revolution, and I'd already been thinking about playing Deus Ex. I'd already been thinking about playing the whole series. So I watched the video, even though I'd never played any of the games that he talks about, and that inspired me to check out the games and see if he was right, if Human Revolution was just okay, and Deus Ex was like this incredible, beloved masterpiece that everyone should play. So long story short, I thought both games are really great. Deus Ex mostly just great. It's got a lot of control issues. Now, some of that is on me. I will be completely honest about that. I do not have a mouse, so I'm using a trackpad and keyboard, which is obviously not ideal, and was not how the game was intended. There are mods for controllers, and I could have done that, but by the time I seriously started considering it, I'd already pretty much gotten used to it. It is very weird though, but luckily I don't know if it's the earliest game, but it's certainly one of the early adopters of games that you can actually change the controls on. So, like for example, like left bracket is zoom in on a sniper gun. I don't know what the fuck they were smoking, but that's just crazy. Instead, I was able to move around some of the controls, make it a little bit better, but still, yeah. I mean, the enter key as the button was weird. I wanted to change it to the space button, but the space button was the jump button, and that was really important. So I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't be bothered. So I just dealt with it. It does impacted me anyway. Certain enemies are just a lot faster than you, especially like the robot spiders that you have to fight in certain later levels that shoot out electricity and kill you very fast, because you're augmented and you're basically part machine. Um, but anyway, that's why I think anyway. But they're really annoying. They're hard to hit because they're on the ground. They're hard to hit because of the clunky controls. But even with janky controls, I still had a good time. I will say also, unfortunately, the graphics are really bad. Like the character models look terrible. Even for the time, I've seen other games from 2000 and even the 90s that looked better than Deus Ex. Now, obviously, here at the Gaming Lounge, we think gameplay is king and all that. But geez, like the graphics just do this game no favor. There were some like skylines, skyboxes, kind of things that were fun to look at and kind of pretty, but character models look terrible. I don't usually talk about graphics because I don't really care, but I have to talk about this because it was a little distracting. Wasn't a big deal, but something I want to note. Um, the big draw for Deus Ex for any of these kind of immersive sim games is the amount of player freedom. You can do pretty much whatever you want in whatever level you want. You can hack security. You can use crates to move past them. You can blow up doors or lockpick them. You can kill enemies or go non-lethal. You choose what augmentation points you invest in, whether you kill bosses or don't, how you complete objectives, whether you go loud or whether you're stealthy. Towards the beginning of the game, I was definitely stealthy and non-lethal. But as the game progressed and I got better and better weapons, it was just easier for me to just kill enemies and just kind of zoom through the levels. Not zoom through them. I don't want to say I wasn't rushing myself, but um, I definitely wasn't playing as non-lethally. Some of the non-lethal stuff, like the taser, is a little finicky, and I got frustrated with it. But there are alternatives to the taser. Um, the loud approach is definitely disincentivized. I would say this game, well, how they explain it themselves is basically the combat of System Shock and the stealth of Thief. Unlike in Thief, though, you can actually attack the guards, but it's kind of like in Indiana Jones. You're always outnumbered, you're always overpowered. So it's not usually a good idea unless, like, towards the later of the game where you got some really big augmentations. Towards the end of the game, I was able to just shrug off most bullets because I put my points and stuff that helps me get back my health really fast. And then I just stocked up on stuff that could give me my electrical powers back. So enemies kind of became trivial towards the end, which isn't a big deal. Um, you're supposed to feel powerful by the end of the game, so not a big deal. Um, the player choice is very good when it comes to the levels and how you approach it. I will say One thing I definitely disagree with on H-Bomb is just how kind of a classic the story is. Like, the story is cool. Basically, you are this government agent and you have to take out these terrorist groups that are in a far-flung future of, I think it's the 2040s or 2050s. Um, Still a ways away from where we are. Um, but they're basically like trying to deal with an augmented world where some people have these powers and some people don't. And then the government is also, maybe orchestrating this virus. Basically, in this universe, every conspiracy theory that you know about is true, except maybe like the non PC ones. I will say, if this game had been made after 2001, I would be very interested to see what conspiracy theories they would have added to the game. But anyway, luckily this game was made in the late 90s and early 2000s, so that did not have to be an issue. But you always have to make certain choices. You always get sent to a prison halfway through the game. I'm going to put out spoilers, but I mean, it's a 25-year-old game. I think we're all going to be okay. Um, but you're always going to end up in prison. You're always going to work for UNATCO at the beginning. You're always going to turn against UNATCO. You always have to fight Bob Page at the end. Uh, there are certain things that you always had to do and really didn't have a choice in, which wasn't a big deal, but because H bomb talked up the game so much and how awesome it was in terms of player choice, I did expect a little more flexibility with the story. Um, I didn't have as much expectations for Human Revolution, so that didn't really affect me. I will say, one of the last things I'll talk about, the endings suck. Um, they come out of nowhere. They're not really fleshed out. They don't really look very impressive. I went with the Ascended ending. I don't really know why you would go with anything else. The Ascended ending is basically JC Denton merges with the AI. I mean, it's called Deus Ex, Ghost in the Machine, God of the Machine, whatever. And it's like, that's literally becoming a god through AI. So it seemed like, thematically speaking, more appropriate than joining the Illuminati. By the way, they're real. Aliens are real, by the way. Area 51 is also, I mean, it is a real thing, but it's a real thing like conspiracy theorists think it's a real thing. Um, it's a crazy game plot wise, and I really dig it. But I'm not gonna say it like bowled me over with its dialogue. Also, I guess the studio behind it did all the dialogue in like a month, and it really shows. Not the dialogue, the voice acting. It's really bad across the board. It just most of the characters sound robotic or they don't care. And it's just not super good. I will say it leads to some funny moments. Like JC at one point is like, a bomb. And it just sounds like, I don't know, the least amount of acting I've ever heard. But it's very funny at the same time. Um, One of my big problems with the game, oh, the soundtrack is great too. Very catchy, very techno. But yeah, I didn't like the endings. I will say the voice acting, like I said, is bad, but especially when you're in China, it's really racist. I'm not going to be shy about this criticism. It's very racist. It's very English, English, very stereotypical Asian music. Just like the biggest stereotypes of Asia you could ever imagine are here. It was very distracting from the game. I'm not going to say it made the game suck or anything, but it was a bit disappointing. It is a 25-year-old game, but still, uh, not great. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the game. It was a great one. Holds up really well for a 25-year-old game. Every level you can do so differently. You can go loud, you can go quiet, you can hack, you can swim. Swimming's kind of useless, but you can swim. Um, there's so many ways to approach every level, and I think it's so smartly done and so well done. The levels are so intricately designed and so well. I mean, you don't really see this in gaming anymore. So I really want to talk it up because that's the main selling point of the game for me and for a lot of people is the player choice. It's really, really good. The amount of agency you have in how you want to tackle missions, very good. So a great game overall. I did have some problems with the voice acting, the graphics, and the endings, and some of the gameplay, but still a great game. Holds up really well even after 25 years. So go check it out. Deus Ex, it's very cheap. Steam often has it on sale for dirt cheap.
Cool. So I've also been playing God of War on Steam Deck, which is also PC, really. So I'm playing on Steam Deck. God of War 2018 plays really well on the Steam Deck. It's fantastic. The graphics look great, even on a lower setting. I mean, it was originally a PS4 game, so and Steam Deck is about the equivalent of a PS4. So it translates very well. It plays great, plays fantastic. It feels like a great handheld game, which is crazy. I could have never imagined playing this game on a handheld in 2018, but here we are, 7 years later. Um, Even earlier than that came out. I think it came out a couple years ago on Steam Deck as well. So yeah, it plays great. It looks great. The game itself obviously is amazing. It's my game of the year in 2018. I think it's one of the greatest games of all time. Top 20 game of all time for me. I absolutely loved God of War 2018. It The storyline is amazing. The gameplay is amazing. The soundtrack is legendary. Everything about it is just It's a quality game. I can see why people have issues with this narrative in terms of like it is slower paced a bit. There are times where you do a lot of like walking and talking, like those kind of third person action games tend to do that. Where there's always like those long narratives where you're just walking with the character and you're talking about something. But I think I really enjoy these kind of games. I think the cinematic of this game is like legendary as well, and it looks fantastic on the Steam Deck, especially on the OLED. The colors really pop, especially when you're talking to like Freya's like when you were in Freya's like location with the giant turtle and the all the colors of her area or like really pop on the OLED Steam Deck, and it's phenomenal. And then God of War Ragnarok was picked for the best Steam Deck game of the year last year by fans. So Ragnarok's supposed to be even better on the Steam Deck. So I'm excited to play that. Though I do want to play that on the PC first because I want to take advantage of all the ultra settings and the ultra wide. But but for now, I will. This would be one of my earliest games beat for the year is God of War 2018. I'm like halfway through it, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's obviously one of the best games of all time. So yeah. And then since Dory has more to say about her next game, let me just say my last game. Final Fantasy VII Intergrade on PC. So this one I've been playing on my PC, my desktop. I do have it on Steam Deck, and I've tried it on Steam Deck, and it plays fantastic. It's verified. It's one of the best Steam Deck games, platinum. If you go by Steam DB, it runs phenomenal on the Steam Deck. But it does obviously it has graphic deficiencies on the Steam Deck in comparison to a desktop. But obviously, Final Fantasy VII Remake was a PS4 game originally, so it's going to run really well on a Steam Deck. They run the same as a PS4, and it plays great. It's first of all, the graphics are really good. I think obviously when you play Rebirth first, or you're coming off Rebirth, Rebirth is much better graphically and gameplay wise. But this game still holds up really well. The gameplay, I think gameplay is one of the best action RPG gameplays of all time. I really like the mix between real time combat and the way you can pause the combat and go through your menu and stuff like that. It mixes up like turn based and real time combat at the same time. And I really hope we get more games that do that kind of system. I think the storyline is still mostly good. I still would have preferred a more streamlined Final Fantasy VII remake story than like the Nomura timeline craziness that we've gotten. It's not bad or anything. It's just I would have preferred a more just like a regular remake, but that's fine. I do also, but at the same time, I do respect the meta ness of this game. But I can imagine how confusing it would be first time playing it, not having any context like of who the specters are and the timeline, and Sephiroth being self aware. He's trying to change the timeline. I can imagine people being confused by that. So it perhaps might be a good idea to go through the original game first, which is not super long. I mean, it's still the RPG, but it's not like we're not talking metaphor 80-hour game. Like I feel like RPGs nowadays are like 10 times longer than they used to be. But either way, I think this is a great game. I strongly recommend it. If you're a Steam Deck gamer, like this is a great Steam Deck game. And if you're on a desktop, Just keep in mind if you have an ultra wide monitor like me, it does not support ultra wide monitors. You have to get uh, a program that extends it. And you have to mess with the settings to make sure to get the best quality for your ultra wide. For whatever reason, Square Enix refuses to support ultra wide settings on PC. I did the same thing with Final Fantasy 16. I had to get a mod to get the ultra wide, and it was very annoying. But once I did that, it looks fantastic, and the ultra wide for Final Fantasy 7 remake, it looks fantastic now. I got the perfect settings that I like, and overall I'm having a great time with it. I will have this game beat by the end of the month, so I can jump into Rebirth again. As I said last episode, I'm going to play through Rebirth again. I'm excited to play through all the PC settings. Going by the trailer this week, they were revealing the quality of life updates, and the graphics are going to be better, and it's gonna be really awesome. Because like I said, biggest issue I had with Rebirth was the performance issues on the PS5, and I had to play in 30 frames. So I'm excited to play this game at high frame rate, high graphics, and then hopefully from now on, all their Square Enix games will be on PC day one. I won't have to wait forever to play them. But worst case scenario, I just play on PS5. It's not like the end of the world either. But I do hope we start getting Xbox games day one. And then there's a lot of news about Final Fantasy 7 remake coming up, but we'll talk about that when we get to those topics. So let Dory is also been playing Deus Ex Human Revolution. So beat the first game. Now you're moving on to the next one. Tell us about it, please.
Right. Yeah. So, safe to say, I very much disagree with H Bomb about this game. He has a lot of criticisms of it, way too many. If I talked about all of them, we'd be here for a long time. Um, but his general criticisms is that there's a lot less player agencies. The game is a lot more cinematic focused. The team did not have a lot of flexibility in how they implemented the game. Human Revolution was done by Eidos Montreal, which was owned by Eidos, but then owned by Square Enix eventually. So it's just a confusing mess. It's why one of the bosses in the game are named Barrett. As a little cheeky reference. Um, anyway, I think this game is more than fine. I actually think it's really great. It's pretty much across the board a better game than the original Deus Ex. Now, that's obvious in some ways, right? Obviously, the graphics are going to be better. Obviously, voice acting was taken at least more seriously in 2010, 2011 than it was in 2000. Um, and then the endings are better too. I'll talk about that a little bit. I maybe won't be as specific with spoilers, but they are better. I had a controller for it, so the controls were better too. But yeah, the voice acting, the graphics, the story choices, especially the endings, a lot better. Um, so it does, however, I do agree generally with H Bomb that it's not as focused on player freedom. I think Eidos, you listen to their behind the scenes documentary that it comes with the director's cut. And sorry, that's a plow outside the house if you can hear that. And they really wanted to simplify Deus Ex. They thought it's kind of the whole fucking thing with Dragon Age. As Dragon Age went on, they simplified it more and more and more. The first Dragon Age very crunchy, very CRPG inspired. The second one has a little bit of that, but not nearly as much as the first. And then of course Inquisition, pretty much completely gone, pretty much completely streamlined. And then the newest one, which I love, both of us loved, is just an action RPG. And so the transformation is complete at that point. Um, but they did similar here. They streamlined a lot of stuff. Now, I think in some situations that was good. Some situations it wasn't. The skill tree is kind of confusing. Certain things shouldn't be going in certain areas. But yeah, overall, graphics are obviously better. Voice acting's better. You also get 4 choices for the ending instead of 3. None of those endings felt perfect to me, but they at least 2 out of the 4 felt well placed in the world that I was in, and I was actually conflicted about which one I wanted to pick. I will also complain about the stealth in this game. Combat is more so encouraged. You do get guns, you do get ammo. You don't get a ton of ammo because they don't want you to like blast through the game. But I sometimes it just felt like enemies could see through walls or they could see through the tiniest cracks. If 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 like a walkway had like a little barrier and then a little like sliver underneath it that was just nothing. It felt like enemies could see right through it. So that was really frustrating. I got caught a lot in certain areas where there were just a lot of enemies, and there was not enough space to really move around, and so it felt like no matter what angle you went to, you were gonna get caught. But I got ghost a lot, which is the achievement you get if nobody detects you. I got smooth operator, which is what you get if none of the technology detects you. I found it really satisfying overall. Stealth was really satisfying. I didn't understand how the taser gun worked at first, but eventually I got it. The sniper taser, not sniper taser, the sleep dart sniper thing, I forget what the fuck it's called. That silenced is really handy too. So I use that a lot. Um, I pretty much played non-lethal. I will say it kind of sucks that Deus Ex Human Revolution doesn't allow you to not kill the bosses. Originally, they were going to let you make that choice, and that's reflected in some of the dialogue. A couple of the bosses, it kind of sounds like Adam Jensen can make a choice, but haha, just kidding. You can't actually make that choice, and that stinks. But honestly, I blew up pretty much all the bosses in the original Deus Ex with the Gep gun, so it didn't bother me on a personal level. But I understand it being an issue for some people. Um, I was never one of those people in Metal Gear Solid who went for non-lethal bosses. I was just like, I'm just trying to get through this. I just want to beat the game. Let's not overcomplicate this. Um, so that's just me. Speaking of boss fights, you get this thing called Typhoon Ammo. Now, Typhoon Ammo is basically this big AoE, area of effect attack that is fucking ridiculous. And if you upgrade it all the way, you can take out bosses in one hit, two hits. I think two hits. It's crazy, and it trivializes all the boss fights, and I'm completely fine with it because this game is not really made for satisfying boss fights. Pretty much anyone will tell you that the boss fights are the worst part of the game because the game's not really that kind of game, or at least it's like struggling to either be that kind of game or not be that kind of game. Um, I was fine with it. I felt powerful. I felt awesome. Certain other effects did that too, like the long jump or a high jump, and then you also could do the Icarus falling thing, where you like can jump off from anywhere, and a cutscene plays, and you just like land safely. That always felt awesome. So no complaints about the augmentations. Maybe how they're laid out could be better. I also think the hacking minigame is kind of an issue. I mean, it's not. I don't dislike it as much as H-Bomb did, but I understand why some people don't like it. But generally, I found it fine. If you really don't like hacking, you can look up the codes online, or you can use automatic unlocking devices, or you can find the codes in the game. You know, you get many unlocking devices. The story was not very flexible, but that's okay. I understood that Eidos was trying to take a more cinematic approach with the Deus Ex universe, more in line with the games of the time, and I was fine with it. You can still hack, you can stealth, you can move crates around. I did this one thing in this tunnel where I didn't have resistance to electrified water, and I couldn't find the switch, and I didn't have certain augmentations that would help me get through it. And so what I did was I picked up a box and I jumped on it. I picked up the box that was next to it and put it in front of me. And I just like makeshift like used it as stepping stones basically. And it was very simple, but I felt like a genius. Even though that was obviously the intention of like leaving them right outside that door. But it was still really fun. I felt like an awesome person. Um, let's see. I went quiet and non-lethal as possible, except with the bosses, of course. One boss you can do non-lethal, which was cool, and you did get to see that reflected in the dialogue. I do recommend using a guide to know what augmentations to invest in. It's not quite as clear which ones are the best as it is in Deus Ex, and the layout of the augmentations is not very intuitive at first. I mean, I got used to it, but yeah. If you do want to know what to invest in, I would invest in hacking, put capture to 4, stealth, put that all the way up. That way you don't get it detected during hacking mini games, which can be frustrating. But it gives you like a 20-second time limit, and then you have to do everything. And I already mentioned high jump and Icarus landing. I didn't really get to use the turrets or the robots. against enemies at all, even though I invested in that for hacking. That was kind of disappointing, but also partially not partially on me because I didn't want to kill any enemies. The music is not as iconic as the original Deus Ex. There is a funny moment where one of the guys in one of the side streets is whistling the Deus Ex menu theme, which I thought was fun. Um, but yeah, all the music is fine. I mean, I thought it was fine. And China is a lot less racist. I'm not going to say it's not racist at all, but it's a lot better in terms of like voice acting and the music and the environments and stuff like that. It feels a lot more authentic. Overall, I thought this was a really great game. I'd actually think it was a better game if I didn't spend 2.5 hours in a fucking ship section that was way too long, had multiple loading zones and lots of backtracking. I won't go too much into that, but there's a big section of the game where there are two characters in this game. There's regular Adam Jensen, who you control as the player, and then there's Cutscene Jensen. And Cutscene Jensen's a fucking dumbass. He always gets caught. He always gets punched. He's stupid. He always makes these dumbass decisions so that the plot can move forward. You know, it's that trope of like, oh, I'm behind a bulletproof glass and I can't punch my way through for some reason, and so something is going to happen that I can't control because it has to happen for story related reasons, right? It feels cheap. It is cheap, etc. So Cutscene Jensen is a menace. He basically gets himself, throws himself, almost blows himself up, then throws himself in a cryogenic sleep thing, then gets taken aboard the ship, then gets tortured, then you lose all your fucking augmentations and equipment. Kind of like the first game. There's a lot of callbacks to the first game in terms of the locations you go to and the plot, which is whatever, it's fine. I can see how that would bother some people, but I don't mind. And then they're like, oh, well, don't worry about it. Once you get all your equipment back, you'll get these things called praxis points, and you'll get all of your augmentations back. Not true. You get some of your augmentation points back, but it takes a while longer for you to actually get where you were before. So that was frustrating. But overall, really great game. I recommend it. I recommend both Deus Ex games. I'm gonna play Mankind Divided, but and this is the segue, Seb. I've been busy watching GDQ, Awesome Games Done Quick. So both Seb and I have been watching that. So we got some favorite runs we want to talk about. But Seb, I'll give my voice a second.
Yeah, so Games Done Quick is an annual event. They pretty much have streams all year. I watch them all year long, but January is like the big one, big runs, and it's been fantastic this week. I feel like there's been a lot of great games. Some GDQs are hit or miss. I feel like they'll pick games I've never heard of or just don't really care to watch. But this year I feel like there's been a great amount, and I do appreciate they do shout out some indies and obscure games as well. But it's just don't appeal to me. But for the games I do really like, I watched a bunch of them this week. Starting with Wind Waker. Uh, Dory, you watched that one as well. But let your voice get a break. So let me start with the ones that I watched. Probably only I watched myself. Let's start with Shenmue. I didn't. I mean, first of all, this is like a 3-hour speed run, but just seeing Shenmue at a speed run is amazing. If you don't know what Shenmue is, it's a very classic Dreamcast game that's very narrative based, very dialogue based, and he basically has a 9 to 5 job picking up crates and things like that. Not the most exciting thing for a speedrun, but just the fact that we got to see Shenmue at a speedrun, I thought that was awesome. I didn't watch all of it, but I watched a good amount of it, and it was just cool seeing Shenmue. Also, another one I watched was Resident Evil Deadly Silence, which it's Resident Evil 1, the classic one, but on the DS, so it has added like DS features. I remember when I was a kid playing that. My dad bought me it after school. I was in middle school. I actually remember this memory. I have a good memory of this. I really wanted this game because I wanted a portable Resident Evil game, which I have now on my Steam Deck and things like that, which is crazy, right? But back then, having Resident Evil 1, which is one of my favorite games, on the go was awesome. And this stream was at like 4 in the morning. But I didn't watch it live. I watched the YouTube video of it. I just thought the host in the couch was really funny. Like, it was one of the funniest episodes. Like 4 in the morning, everybody had the energy. It was amazing. They made a joke with Jickle, a pickle and Jill combined, because Jill sandwich and all that. It was really funny. I really recommend watching
Amazing.
that one because only that one was only like 30 minutes long. So because Resident Evil is not long, so I strongly recommend that one. That was really funny. Um, what else? Let's do. Okay, the Super Mario Brothers one on the Wii. I thought that was really cool because he played the whole game on a piano, which is insane. And he like I love that every time you finish a level, he played like the theme song, like the finishing theme song on the piano with it. It was just amazing. I don't know how people do that. I still don't understand how that worked. I think I don't know if they even explained it. I think they kind of did, but maybe I wasn't totally paying attention because I was kind of confused how it was happening. But it was very interesting and very fun to watch. And then we'll talk about the ones that Dory watched as well. So let's talk about the Wind Waker one now. Dory, you put barrier skip. So what was cool about that particular
So
run?
this run was insane. GDQ has been awesome. We have 10 speedruns overall. For those who don't know, I've done speedrunning in the past as well. I speedran RE4 remake. I never uploaded any of my times foolishly, and I also, more noticeably, speedran Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix on PS5. I think I got a time of 4 hours and something. I forget.
I've
I'm on the leaderboard somewhere. I think I'm in the hundreds.
Yeah,
But
I've never professionally speedrun, but I have like I speedrun Resident Evil 1 to 3 and Silent Hill 2.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I have a good
Yeah,
time
so
with
it's
them.
it's something. I just say that not to brag or whatever, but just to be like, it's something that we both respect and like have actually done and put time into.
Mhm.
Wind Waker, one of the biggest skips in the whole game is that you are supposed to go to Hyrule at some point in Wind Waker. And I think you go to it actually twice, if I remember correctly. And the barrier to the end of the game is like right there, and like you can see like where the end of the game is, where you're supposed to fight Ganon, but you can't get there because, and get ready for this, folks. There's a barrier right in front of you, but if you are able, this is a frame perfect trick that you have to do, like this incredibly precise. I couldn't even recount it to you, but you have to do all this turning. You like flip a deco leaf. It looks, Link looks crazy, and you like jump up and do this frame perfect, frame precise sword slash, because there is 1 pixel, I swear to god, 1 pixel where the barrier parts do not meet or some shit. I'm not explaining this as well as speedrunner does, but it's like, and you're able to get through, and I was blown away. I mean, this was the highlight of the run. It took him a few tries, understandably, because this is a frame perfect skip, but it was crazy. And just generally, the super swim stuff was cool. It was a little like, I would warn you if you have epilepsy or if you are flashing lights or anything. I don't know why they didn't warn anybody, because that the screen kind of goes crazy when you do super speed. But um, it was an incredible run. Seb, did you remember anything from it?
No, that was the part I remember as well. That was it.
Okay.
I was just happy seeing Wind Waker
Um,
because that's one of my favorite
yes.
Zelda games.
Yeah, it was a great one. New Vegas. I love the guy who did this. He did a run a year or two ago where he I didn't realize this was the same guy, but he did a run of Fallout New Vegas that was in any percent, I think, and he like had a fucking like gimmick or props and shit to like explain how the tricks worked while he was doing it. I think he had the couch do it. I don't remember, but it was really funny. And so it's the same guy, and he is doing an all romance run. And one of my favorite parts about this run, it's a very quick run. I think it's under an hour, excuse me. And he he basically puts a rose in this flower vase every time the screen cuts to black. Basically, where he has, where his character gets it on with one of the other NPCs. And yeah, it's just a funny run. He's a funny guy. It's just a fun run. And there are, of course, it's Fallout New Vegas. It's Obsidian. I don't really need to say much more. It's filled with glitches and bugs and really funny skips. So go check it out. Seb, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Nope. I only thing I remember is that I remember like all the loading, a lot of the screens, like the
Yes. Yeah. A lot of loading in that. He's moving so fast through the map that Poor Fallout New Vegas is trying as hard as it can to keep up. I want to quickly shout out the Spyro speedrun. Seb and I both watched this, I think. The highlight of I have a lot of respect for Spyro speedrunners. It's a game I considered speedrunning as well at one point. The super speed strat in some of the later worlds is just crazy. The amount of control that these speedrunners have over Spyro is insane. Super amounts of respect for that alone. It's just a lot of fun. Spyro's a happy, bright, cheery game, so it's just a cool community to watch. So a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, that one was awesome. Spyro is really hard to control when you're charging up like his charge move. So it totally respect Spyro. Speedrunner is one of my favorite games. I've seen Spyro speedruns many times, but usually the PS1 version. And this speedrun particularly made me want to play through Spyro this year, so I probably will do that at some point.
Nice. Um, Here's a surprise speedrun I didn't expect to enjoy. Tomb Raider 2013. Now, long time listeners know I have a very mixed history with this Tomb Raider franchise.
Well, the third
We
one
shall not speak of
in the
the
particular.
third one,
Yeah.
yeah, particularly. This one I actually thought was a great game.
Yeah.
Nothing amazing,
It's the
but it's
best
great.
one, I think, of the
Yeah.
three.
I still have to play Rise. I have it on a couple of things, so I want to play Rise at some point. Um, there, the speedrun is hilarious. First off, you don't really notice how many times Crystal Dynamics makes Laura. He does say Laura, and people in the comments are like getting on him, but who fucking cares? But Laura, how many times she falls on the ground, and it's just like it becomes like a meme at some point during the run of how is she surviving this, and they come up with these crazy theories that are absolutely non-canon, but I wish they were, about how Laura is able to do all this stuff and live, and it's just hilarious. Go check it out. It's a very funny run. One of the most impressive skips is called skywalking. Now basically nobody runs this game, not nobody, but like very few people run this game because it's a very, very challenging run. A lot of the skips are very technical. A lot of it starts with like a frame perfect glitch. I mean, it's just not very welcoming to new people, so the community for this game is not very big because of that. If you want to have a really good time, I mean, in terms of like speed run, not in terms of a good time in terms of play. But yeah, it's a very difficult game, and that's why the game has almost never been submitted to GDQ, because it's a hard game to run in a Twitch setting, let alone a GDQ setting. But skywalking is basically making use of the geometry almost out of bounds, and then using that to like jump up, jump up, jump up. I believe they beat it in less than 2 hours, which is super impressive.
I didn't watch that one, so I don't know
Okay.
much about it.
We both watched Breath of the Wild, which is a shared controller. It's Breath of the Wild. Just go watch it. It's incredible. The things that they do together are amazing. I don't even know how you do this with one controller, let alone two people sharing a controller. It's two of the top runners. It's fun. It's just like classic Breath of the Wild speed run. I love this. Seb's gonna get on me in a second, but I really learned through this AGDQ that just because I don't like a game doesn't mean I'm not going to like it speedrun. And just because I do like a game doesn't mean I will like it speedrun. Like, this is no shade to the runner at all, but like, I couldn't get into Forbidden West at all as a speedrun. I think I clicked off at 40 minutes with 40 minutes to go. Again, no disrespect to the runner, very impressive run, but didn't personally hold my interest. Um, but I love Breath of the Wild speedruns. I probably would watch that content for the rest of my life. It's very satisfying. It's very cool. I could never do it. It's super impressive.
I think it's because Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are so gameplay driven. So like
Yeah,
you can do so many creative things with it, and we're like Forbidden West, Horizon in general is like more narrative, story, cinematic
yes,
focused. So like I wouldn't really enjoy watching a Last of Us speed run. Like maybe like the gameplay store parts of it, but like certain games don't translate well to I feel like to speed run.
I agree. Somebody did do a DLC speed run for Left Behind. I thought that was fun. I didn't put it on the list because like you said, it's very narrative focused. But they did it on Grounded, which was impressive. Although
Yeah,
the Forbidden West one is done on very hard. Um,
yeah.
Last two I'll talk about is one of which is Portal 2.
Yeah.
This is mostly fun because of the runner.
Yeah, he was
He's
funny.
just fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was so funny. He was like in his fucking villain era. I don't know. He was such an asshole, but you knew like he was joking and like he's not actually like that cocky or whatever. And he ended up being right about like them never guessing the number. So it was great. I loved it. The skips are great. It was really cool too because usually on the couch they ask for people that are very knowledgeable about the game, but he just asked some random guy who he was friends with, I think,
Yeah.
named Kevin. Let's go, Kevin. And Kevin didn't know shit about the game.
Yeah.
I mean, he took down notes and he had watched a couple speed runs, but I think it was on very short notice, and so
Yeah.
it was like this really talented, really well read guy mixed with this guy who had no idea what's going on, and like especially the last 15-20 minutes. So that was a fun combination.
Yes, that was one of the best. That's perhaps my favorite one in terms of like entertainment value. Like
Yes.
because the host was so funny.
Yeah, it was so good. Last one I'll mention, and Seb's gonna be happy about this. The Silent Hill 2 speedrun. I didn't expect to enjoy this. Wasn't sure whether I would or I wouldn't, but I did. It was very funny. I'm not, you wouldn't expect it to be funny, but there were a lot of inside jokes within the community as donations. For example, Ethan's left hand kept making donations
Yeah.
saying, please stop putting me into toilets and holes in the wall, please. Uh, Pyramid Head donated at one point, said, please don't look at my diary. That was really rude of you, James. It's just really funny. The skips are really impressive. There's this one moment, I want to talk about this, where he's fighting the flesh lips, which, yes, is as horrifying as it sounds. And he gets pushed into a wall, like a corner, and he has to improvise. This is a classic AGD or GDQ moment where the runner says, that's never happened before. And yeah, he had to improvise and like swing for his life, and still managed to win. So yeah, it was awesome. I was a big fan of it. It was very funny, which I didn't expect. The runner was really talented. So yeah, this was awesome.
Watching him,
Yeah, AGDQ has been great.
yeah, watching him fly through the Eddie boss fight made me think of Dory, like because she, it took so long
Just
to
so
do
mad.
that.
So mad. And then he fucking said he had the audacity to say, "Oh, well, that was Eddie. Let me turn on these fucking lights that I never thought to fucking put on, which would have made the fight a lot easier for me." And then he's like, he has the audacity to say, "Okay, let me fight this Flesh Lips in the hotel. It's one of the hardest fights in the game." And I'm like, "I beat the first try. What do you mean that's the hardest fight in the game?" I was so fucking pissed. Not really, but it was very funny. It was a great run, and yeah, that it was very funny seeing him just like very satisfying though. I wasn't mad. I was satisfied. I was like, yeah, fuck you, Eddie. You eat your strawberry ice cream. I also thought that was popcorn. I also thought he was putting his hands in a
Oh
bag of
really?
popcorn.
Oh
He's
really?
scooping out ice cream. Yeah, I never
Ah,
noticed the pink on his hands,
uh,
and I just thought that was like a weirdly shaped popcorn cup thing that they have now.
yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't put that together either. But yeah, that's disturbing.
I do, I do remember people being upset that they took out the pizza part because like the pizza line is one of the most iconic Silent Hill 2 lines. How he's like, how can you just sit
What
there
is it
and eat?
anyway?
How can wait? What happened?
Oh. Oh, sorry. No, I just want to know what the line was, and you're about to say it, so never
Yeah,
mind.
he's like, how can you just sit there and eat pizza? And it's like it's one of the most famous Silent Hill 2 lines. They took it out of the game completely. He's supposed to be in the bowling alley or something. I think it's the bowling alley or something like that. He's eating pizza. They did put the pizza box in
Yep.
the bowling alley is in the game. You can actually visit it, and the pizza box is there. I think it's one of the things you can collect. But people were not happy. They took that line out because it's just so iconic. But because they
So
put it,
he's so fucking upset about it. I just listened to the line. It's so funny.
yeah, it's one of the most iconic lines. But Silent Hill 2 is a great game to speedrun. I think because horror games naturally translate well to speedruns. They're fun to watch because there's so many strats and they're it's fun just watching people run by the enemies. Like obviously when you play the game multiple times, like it gets to the point where like everything I was fighting literally everything my first playthrough. And then like by
Yeah.
like your third playthrough, you're just like speed running by every enemy. Like why am I even fighting these in the first place? But there was a lot of close calls in that speed run because this game is very hard. Like
Yes, there were.
because he played on hard difficulty and like
He
you get
played on hard mode. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, he played on hard mode. I think he died once or twice the whole run, which is
He,
super impressive. I think he died to Pyramid Head and he
yeah,
died to maybe some nurses or something.
those nurses is no joke, especially on hard mode. But
Yeah.
all right, so let's move on now to some news. So there was a lot of news this week, like and rumors as well. So it was loaded because first of all we had the Consumer Electronics Show, which is huge. We're not gonna talk about all the gadgets and everything because it's more of a gaming podcast. But there were a lot of cool gadgets to talk about, even for gaming. But I just didn't feel like it would be worthy in this for this podcast. But there are a couple of things we'll talk about. First of all, I don't think this was not part of CES. But PlayStation is apparently adding smells to their games with with this like olfactory technology. That's the rumor anyway. Now this doesn't.
I'm gonna be so mad, Seb, if they don't do a crossover with The Rock and say, "Do you smell what Sony is cooking?" or something like that. They really need to do that.
Yeah, but he's tied to the Xbox because he was on
Oh,
stage
oh shit.
when the Xbox was revealed, the very first
Oh
Xbox.
shit.
Yeah, but well, gaming is a visual medium, and obviously we ventured into here. Like obviously, sound effects are awesome now, and so we have it's auditory too. But there's a lot of touch, like haptic feedbacks nowadays, and we have VR where you're grabbing things with the controllers and stuff. So we got in the touch, but obviously we've not hit on taste and smell. I don't want to taste anything, so smell is the only next sense you could do. But I personally think this is more like a gimmick. I think auditory and visual is all you need, and then like obviously, like feeling it for like the haptic feedbacks and all that is awesome. But like it's not necessary. Um, I don't want to smell what a clicker smells like. I don't want. I don't know what Horizon like thousands of years in the future what robot dinosaurs are gonna smell like. No one, everybody's gonna smell like bo and this came out at the wrong time because like I feel like people would like if they packaged this with Stellar Blade, I think people would buy this. It would be flying off the shelves. To be honest with you,
Oh my God, Seb. Jesus Christ, dude.
yeah. Everybody made that joke, and yeah, Twitter was wild in the comments with that, as you would expect. And I think so. I appreciate Sony for innovating because they're a tech company first, more than a gaming company, and they always do these kind of things with the technology. Every tech company does this. Don't be surprised this never comes out. It's probably just like a patent they're just playing around with and doesn't get anywhere. But it might actually be something. The only thing is, it's gonna to order to do this. It would cost a lot of money to develop this and then implement it. I don't even know how you would implement it. You would have to use like something specific technology somewhere. I don't know, in the controller or like a thing you add. I don't know how they would even work. And like, how do you even get a certain smell in? And like, I don't want to play a horror game and smell it. Like, I don't want to play Silent Hill 2 and smell the toilet when he's putting his hand in the toilet. I just like it does. I don't think it makes it more immersive for me. I think I'm good. I think the visuals does enough, and I think it's just like I think personally it's distracting. It would be distracting. I think it just sounds like a gimmick to me. Like I just don't have any interest in this personally. I mean, I'm on PC anyway, but obviously these gimmicks come to PC at some point. So, uh, what do you think, Dory? Like, would this interest you at all? Like, do you want to smell what games smell like?
You know what? The only thing I'm smelling, Seb, is some bullshit. No. I this is stupid. This is one of the most gimmicky gimmicks that has ever gimmicked a gimmick. I'd have no interest, zero interest, negative interest in this. Uh yeah, the seller plate comments are crazy. I'm not gonna comment on that. But that's wild. Yeah, it's I don't know. When you said that this was one of the topics, I literally sent you a drive. I was like, pause. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, is
Yeah,
this real? How did I not see this on Twitter or Blue Sky or any of the gaming discussion boards I'm in? How the fuck did I miss this? I'm glad I missed this, but yeah, this is stupid. And like you said, would require look, even apart from my subjective opinions on it, this, like you said, would require a lot of money. It would require a lot of tech innovation. It would require a separate thing. I don't see why Sony would do this. It's a funny rumor, and like obviously in the comments, let us know what game you would like to smell. I'm trying to think of what I would want to smell in Kingdom Hearts. There's got to be a level that would be really nice to smell, like a candy level or something, or like I don't know. God, like Toy Story would smell like burnt plastic. I don't know. Um,
You smell
like, I don't know.
darkness.
I smell darkness. Oh my god, there's a fucking line. Yes, there's a fucking line in fucking Chain of Memories where Riku's like, "I smelled you. I smelled your darkness" or some shit.
And then as soon as Rico says that, like mist comes out of your controller and sprays you
That's
and
right.
it sprays you in the.
Sprays you right in the nose. That's right. Oh my god, you can smell the darkness too.
Your
And
eye,
we'll get that, by the way, before Kingdom Hearts 4 fucking comes out. Anyway,
your eyes turn
uh,
yellow, and
that's right. You get Norded. That's
yeah,
right.
you
You
feel
you can
like
get
you
Norded.
feel anger. You just like you just feel like you want to embrace the darkness. But
That's right.
I only cool thing I would really be into with this would be like an Astrobot game or like Sackboy where there's like a cotton candy level or something like that, like something creative or fun. But I don't want to smell anything other than that. I just don't think it'd add to anything. I don't know what an action. Maybe an action game would sound cool if it smelled like bullets, like something that'd be cool, all right. But that's just very like specific, and I don't. It's a feature I would just never really use, so it just doesn't really appeal to me. All right, so moving on to the next topic, which would be RGG gave us a Pirate Yakuza direct, and I'll let Dory handle this because you're the one that wrote the notes, and
Sure.
yeah, so you
Yeah.
give us the
I don't have a
details.
ton to say. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. A
Okay.
lot of you have probably already seen this. But it's all promising stuff. The first thing is that Majima Goro, who's the main character here, is going to have two unique styles: Mad Dog style, which is kind of using his muscle memory of the old Majima to just kicking the shit out of enemies. I'm going to be real with you. Air combos, Speedy style. You're slashing and stunning enemies with knives. You can also charge up moves. It's classic Yakuza. Once you build up your gauge, which is called the madness gauge, you can summon some shadowy men. Think fucking like Naruto. And you just I don't know, beat the shit out of guys even more. It's awesome. Sea Dog style is the second style. You can throw cutlasses, which also can be double wielded. Let's go. I'm always a sucker for double wielding. You've ever heard me talk about it. I just instantly think it's cool. That's why Roxas is goaded to me. But anyway, you can throw the cutlasses from Majima like boomerangs. You can use a chain hook to tell them to get over here. And you can use a pistol as well, which is always good. Um, when you're in the Sea Dog style, you have dark instruments. You can summon reinforcements like, and I shit you not, monkeys, sharks, jellyfish, and birds with a full madness gauge. So, I mean, typical Yakuza bullshit. I love it. And then the excellent thing is you can mix these two styles on the fly. So you can be in the middle of the Sea Dog style and then go Mad Dog all of a sudden. Um, and then it looks very DMC, very Devil May Cry. Looks very satisfying. I use the word "very" too many times there. Um, you can, of course, it's Yakuza. It's the brawler genre. When it is the brawler genre, I should say. So makeshift weapons like benches and trash cans and whatever are all over the place. You can upgrade abilities. You can use items to enhance your skills through like rings, jewelry that you can use on your hands. Now, one of the most important things in the game is ship combat. I believe it's called the Goro Maru. You can customize it as much as you want. There's a pool of 100, and I quote, salty dogs for your ship. This direct was very funny. I'm going to get to actually one of the best lines in a second. But you can help them gain experience through song, combat, food, whatever you want. One of the best lines in the video is, "Yes, this game is canon, and you're going to need a lot of them." So I love that line. You can customize what weapons your ship uses, and at one point during the trailer, you could fire rocket launchers from the crow's necks. So that was awesome. You can't fucking do that shit in Black Flag. I'll tell you that. You can upgrade your ship. You have a home base where you can make food, restock supplies, reorganize your wardrobe, and rehabilitate animals. One of the big places that you can go to in the game is called Madlantis. This features AEW wrestler and former AEW World Champion Samoa Joe. All hail Samoa Joe, my true tribal chief. Um, but lots of mini games, a battle coliseum where you can do ship combat, and I believe hand-to-hand combat as well. But I could be wrong. Last couple things I'll mention, or that they mentioned, Nele Island, which is mentioned in Infinite Wealth, which is a key to the story and Majima's Missing Memories. I feel like this game could have been called Majima's Missing Memories, but anyway.
That's very Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, very Kingdom Hearts. You could also go to Hawaii. Surprise. You can have mini games, quizzes, karaoke, go kart. Crazy Taxi is back. You can play pool. You can play Virtual Fighter. The Segway is back. You can fight on the streets, the mean streets of Hawaii, in hand-to-hand combat. And you can use your hook shot to utilize more verticality than you could in the base game or the original Infinite Wealth game. Last thing they mentioned as a little cheeky additional thing is that New Game Plus is free this time, which is good. They listen to the player base. I guess Sega's been doing a lot of scummy stuff with like their player base in terms of like getting money from them and like charging for things that shouldn't be charged. But I'm glad they listened on this one. And that's it. That's pretty much all I have to say. The game's looking awesome. Was one of the 3 games. Yes, that's right. 3 games that I said during our most anticipated list that I was like, that could be my goatee. So still could be my goatee. Looks great.
Yeah, I think it looks great. We don't get a lot of pirate games, and some of them. I had a lot of hope for Skull and Bones when it first was revealed, like a long time ago. But obviously, after like 10 years of development, it sucked. So I was disappointed with that. So I haven't really genuinely enjoyed a pirate game since like Black Flag, which was like 2013. So I'm very excited for this. It looks batshit crazy as you expect from Yakuza and a Majima game. So it looks fantastic, and I definitely will be getting it day one in February. So that's my 'cause since I'm not a big Monster Hunter fan, this is my biggest game of February. So I'm excited for it, and I'm actually happy that Assassin's Creed got delayed to March because that way I can focus all on Like a Dragon, and then they can play Assassin's Creed in March. All right, so let's talk about hardware. So we have a lot of hardware news to talk about. We're not going to go in very specific details because it's not this kind of. It's not. This is more of a gaming casual podcast, so I don't want to get into like the crazy specs. And Dory doesn't really get into that anyway, nor do I want to talk about it. But there are. I'm going to keep this very simple in general for so everyone can understand because there are certain bigger stories in it than just the tech specs and all that stuff. We don't have to get into all that. So the first one is the Lenovo. So we're getting the Legion Go S, which is a third-party handheld. Obviously, handhelds are huge right now. Everybody's making one. Microsoft's is going to be making their own. Sony's making their own. Apparently, you have the Switch, you have the Steam Deck, you have the Rogue Ally X, and so on and so forth. Everybody's doing this handhelds. It's the biggest thing ever right now. All right, so but the big news out of this story is that SteamOS is coming to a third-party handheld. That's huge news for a lot of reasons. Well, first of all, SteamOS, if you don't know what it is how we have like big picture mode and how we're like how easy it is to use like games on the Steam Deck. Like all your games from your entire library, no matter how old they are all in the same spot. They're easy to access. It's a very console-like experience. So it's really beneficial to have SteamOS. And this makes a huge difference for people because people want a streamlined experience, especially on a handheld. And one of the criticisms of the Rogue Ally X and other Windows handhelds is that using Windows on a handheld is very complicated and difficult to do. So they have their benefits because, like, a lot of programs work with Windows and it's easier to download things. You don't have to do 100 steps. Or not 100 steps. You don't have to do as many steps to do things as you have to do on a Steam Deck because it has Linux. But people strongly prefer to use SteamOS because it's easy to use their library. So the big news is that like a different company outside the Steam Deck, outside Valve, is able to use SteamOS on their handheld. And the big news out of this is that it opens the door for future companies to do this because the big rumor is Valve is working on a console like the Steam Deck, like their Steam machine from like a long time ago that didn't work that didn't work out, and this opens the door to that. Maybe possibly like as a company can work on like a console or something like that for Steam, and they can put the Steam OS on it, and then all of a sudden you have a console because Steam OS looks very much so like a console experience. So this is big news. This comes out in May of 2025. I personally will not be getting it because I have a Rogue Ally regular one and a Steam Deck, so I have no reason to get this. I'm not going to be buying every handheld ever. But if you're into this, get the Steam OS version. There's two versions of this Lenovo. There's the Microsoft version, and you have the Steam version. The Steam version comes out in May of 2025. I have down according to just Dexerto.com. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, the pricing's yet to be announced, but it's going to be in the upper. I would imagine it's going to be at least $600, $700, $800, $900 range, thousand. That's usually what PC handhelds go for. Steam Deck is the cheapest one but obviously Steam Deck is the inferior in terms of hardware specs. But that's not why people buy Steam Deck. This is big news, so it opens the door for Valve to be working with other companies to release Steam on their platforms, and maybe in the Xbox handheld or something like that will have this on as well, or they'll do a partnership with them, or I don't know. It opens the door to all these possibilities, so I think that's the biggest news of anything out of this. All right, the other news with Steam was with the Nvidia. Nvidia says their GeForce Now is expanding to more devices and regions and enhancing their cloud gaming accessibility. So this is from I'm going off their blog. I have a summary of it. Basically, you can use GeForce Now if you on the Steam Deck, which is amazing because if you don't know what that is, you can stream games. So this will allow people to stream games in 4K on their Steam Deck, which is amazing for me. So you can actually have 4K resolution and 60 frames per second on a Steam Deck. Now it is going to be streaming, but if you have like Ethernet like I do, or you have great internet, I've had mostly a great time with streaming. But obviously this is very subjective. If you have a bad internet connection, I don't recommend it. But this opens the door because most of my Steam Deck time is played at home. So when I have an internet connection, it mostly great. And this is a really big game changer for me because sometimes I don't want to play at my desk. Obviously I'm a teacher and I move around a lot, and I don't have to. I'm not one of those. I don't have those kind of jobs where I'm working 9 to 5, sitting at a desk all day. But I do have a desk at work, and sometimes I just don't like sitting down in a chair. I want to like lay in bed. I want to sit in the living room, play games or something like that. So I want to play like Cyberpunk on my Steam Deck on an OLED screen, looks amazing. And I'm able to get like a 4080 experience on my handheld, which is insane. So I'm very excited about this. This one of this news kind of came out of nowhere because they've revealed the graphics cards, which we'll talk about, and then like later on, like shortly after, just thrown in there like, oh, by the way, later this year you can stream games on your Steam Deck using GeForce Now. So I thought that was awesome. So I'm really excited about this, and we'll see how it plays out. And this is not as much exciting, but I just wanted to hit on it. They're supporting mixed reality devices. They're collaborating with Apple and Meta and all of them so basically you can use GeForce Now with the VR headsets. So that was cool. So you can have like ray tracing and DLS on all mixed reality headsets. You got like XR glasses, AR glasses, VR glasses, all different things nowadays. And then they said there's new game editions. They say the GeForce Now library already has over 2,100 titles, which include Doom: The Dark Ages and Avowed upon their PC release. So that excites me because like I'm not gonna play Doom on the handheld, but Avowed seems like a great game to play on a handheld, even if I'm streaming it. So that just sounds really exciting to me. Would this interest you, Dory? If you had a handheld, if you had a Steam Deck or Rogue Ally or whatever, would this interest you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool that it's doing it. I I did look at the articles for both the Nvidia thing and for Lenovo. I think it was funny because just to go back to the Lenovo thing for a second, Seb messaged me at like 1 in the morning, was like, "Whoa, this is a big deal," and my tired ass was like, "I have no idea why this is a big deal, dude. I believe you, but like, no idea." Now at like 6 p.m., I completely understand why it's cool because more systems can use the CMOS, and it means that maybe SteamOS and basically be able to use Steam and Windows at the same time a lot easier. At least for NVIDIA, the GeForce Now, I do go into the GeForce stuff every now and then. I had to do that for actually I had to do that for Human Revolution to muck with some of the settings a little bit because I was having some issues because I think my PC is too powerful and my the game was kind of stuttering when I was moving around the camera. But I think it's awesome that people are going to be able to do that on Steam Deck. It means that, obviously you'll be able to use it at better resolution. I mean, we're basically getting consoles in our hands, which is cool. I think they're eventually going to be slimmer and slimmer. I mean, this is what happened with, the SP and then the DS, the Vita, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're going back down that rabbit hole, but this time with way better
You
graphics,
yeah.
sometimes
The
better
pro
gameplay. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, the problem is the battery. It's just like because
Yes,
to get to get better graphics, you need better power. You need more power. And in order to get more power, you need a big battery, and that's what keeps handhelds from being smaller because like we're not the technology's not there yet where you can generate that much power to code Dragon Ball
for
Z.
sure. Yeah,
Um,
and even even on my gaming laptop, like I have to keep it plugged in a lot of the time
yeah,
because it struggles. It's not a $1,000 $2,000 gaming laptop,
yeah,
right? I got it
right.
for like yeah, so
It's just
eight or something
it's
like
the
that.
same thing. It's the same thing with a laptop, right? Like I have a 4060 or whatever, a 4060, and like it's not as strong as a real 4060 on a desktop because a laptop has a battery, so it's
Right.
weaker. The hardware is not as big, so the bigger things are usually they're stronger. But I think PC handhelds obviously are bigger than like a Switch or like the handhelds that we're used to, than Game Boy and stuff like that. But they feel great in your hands. But there's a couple other handhelds that we've seen. They're like they're being revealed. They're like gigantic, and they do. I'm sorry. At that point, it's not a handheld anymore. It's a giant ass tablet. I'm not playing.
Right.
I'm not playing that. I'm sorry. I'll give
I've
me.
seen I love the Nitro that I have from Acer, but I think I sent you the picture of it or you've seen it, but the picture of the Acer handheld, it's not a handheld. You could slap a motherfucker with that and knock them into a coma for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that, it is ridiculous. So yeah, I agree. They need to work on the batteries before we actually start calling these handhelds. I mean, the Steam Deck and the Asus or ASUS or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Those are definitely handhelds, but some of the handhelds coming out are just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's getting a little too much. Like there's too many
Yes.
handhelds now. Or it's like I the problem is people are gonna. Well, I think what people companies realize is that when you have oversaturation of the same thing, people are gonna stick with the brands they know, and that's where like people are gonna stick with Valve and Asus and Nintendo. So you gotta be very careful getting into the space with all these handhelds because people are not gonna buy every single handheld that comes out. Because why would you buy another handheld when you have a Steam Deck and a Rogue Ally? The thing it would have to really stand out, like literally, like like it should have 3D coming out of it, kind of thing. Like yeah, if you can do that, then go ahead. All right, moving on. We only got a couple topics left, but this is a big one because this is about the Switch too. Now we talked about we were speculating, and it seems like we were mostly right of what we were speculating because it sounds like it's coming out in the spring. And but basically at CES 25, the Switch 2 got revealed, it leaked. I mean, first of all, like every rumor and the pictures that we were seeing all lined up with this, so it's like it feels like there's just way too much smoke here. Like it feels like it's true. It's not official yet, so I'm not saying it's definitely happening, but everything what I'm seeing just looks like exactly what the Switch 2 is going to be, and it's been very consistent. First of all, we saw a wider and slightly bulkier console compared to the original Switch, but it still has that same like look of a Switch. Like it looks like a Switch, but like a better version of it. But this one has magnetic Joy Cons. I saw this rumor last year. The prototype features detachable controllers that attach magnetically, replacing the traditional sliding rail mechanism. Uh, and the design can simplify attachment and detachment, improving durability. So I'm curious how this plays out. It sounds cool, but I guess the magnet is really strong. I never had an issue sliding in Joy Cons to the Switch, so that's not something I had to change. But a magnetic can be done really well. This one has an optical sensor on the Joy Cons, so it offers like a mouse like functionality. So kind of like how the Steam Deck has the touchpad, where you move your thumb on the touchpad and it's a mouse built into the Steam Deck. Apparently, the Switch 2 has a built-in mouse on the Steam Deck Joy-Con. I mean, excuse me, on the Switch 2 Joy-Con, and it's like, but it's way smaller. But I guess there's gonna be a mouse cursor you can do. I'm wondering how that's gonna work out. Um, could and then the article says something about enhancing. It could potentially help gameplay precision and versatility and all that, but I don't know how that would play out. But I guess Nintendo will come up with games to do that. Apparently, this has a kickstand, a U-shaped kickstand, suggesting improved stability. Obviously, one of the problems with the Switch that people had was the kickstand was like very cheap, plastic. It was very small. I never really utilized it, but I always thought it was fine. I never had an issue with the kickstand personally, and I think a lot of people have cases on their Switches anyway, which has built-in stands. So I don't know if that was really an issue. Um, just to be clear again, Nintendo has not said anything officially, but we do expect them to say something before April 2025. But that's not the only Switch 2 news. But so let me get into that now. So according to Nate the Hate, he's a podcaster and he has a history of correctly reporting on unreleased video games. Apparently Microsoft, Sony, or not Microsoft, but Microsoft and other companies like Square Enix are planning on putting their games on Switch 2, like big games. So a lot of Switch 2 things got revealed, or not revealed, leaked, or rumored. So all these with a grain of salt, but these are apparently something that might happen, and relatively soon actually. So today of this recording is January 11th. And apparently, according to these rumors, January 17 is when the Switch 2 is going to be revealed by Nintendo. I've seen rumors about Nintendo revealing the Switch 2 in January, so that would line up with that. I can believe that. I don't know about the date, but I can definitely believe it being revealed in January. If it's coming out in the spring, then you need a couple months of build up, right? So I feel like that's not unrealistic at all. Also, the rumor says that it's this rumor says that it's coming out in March 7th. So I don't know if that's true. But it says it's going to be launching in March 7th. So either way, it's the spring, basically. Uh, Apparently, the launch titles are going to be Mario Kart 9, the new Mario Kart. I can totally believe that. First of all, Mario Kart was a massive seller. It's one of the most. It was one of the highest selling games of all time. Like Mario Kart is a juggernaut, and this is a great launch game because the people love Mario Kart, including me. My students have a blast in my class when they play it. But also, apparently, it's going to be launching with Red Dead Redemption 2, which is crazy to think about. But why not, right? If the Switch 2 is as strong as, like, let's say a PS4 hardware, then why? I played Red Dead Redemption 2 on the PS4, so that doesn't surprise me. Like in terms of like if you can handling it, but it's just weird seeing a Rockstar game on a Nintendo handheld. Also, but the big news here as well is that apparently Halo is coming to Steam. Is a Switch 2, which would be crazy, right? And also the rumors Halo and Gears might be coming to PlayStation 5 this year as well. But let's focus. Let's just keep it about Nintendo. Apparently, Halo is coming to Switch 2, which would be insane. And also, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth could be coming to Switch too. Because Square Enix already said that they want to put other games on every platform now because they've been struggling financially. So the exclusivity of their Final Fantasy series is probably over, and I can believe this. Although I question how they can be able to run this on the Switch 2, but maybe the Switch 2 is as strong as the Steam Deck. So maybe if Rebirth can run on the Steam Deck, which I don't know yet because it's not out yet, then maybe it can run on the Switch 2. We don't know how. We don't even know the specs, so we're just assuming. But so we'll see. And then the other rumor was that the retail price is going to be $400, but it says Canadian $400. So if it's Canadian $400, that means it's gonna be cheaper in the U.S. I think people did the math, and that's $270. I don't. I feel like it's gonna be more expensive than 270. So I'm guessing if I had to predict, I think it's gonna be $300 to $400 in that range. I don't see it being like $500. Nintendo always likes to keep their hardware on the cheaper side for a more family casual audience. Um, and then the rumor, we're almost done. The rumor also says that there's gonna be a new 3D Mario trailer. It's not a launch game, but apparently when they launch this, when they reveal the Switch 2, there's gonna be a trailer for a new Mario game that's 3D because we haven't had a new 3D Mario game since Odyssey in 2017. So it's been 8 years. And then and then finally apparently there's two models of the Switch 2. So I'm gonna guess that there's gonna be a more expensive model or and then cheaper model. Um, I don't know what the difference is gonna be. Could be the colors, could be the Joy Cons, could be the screen display. Uh, we'll see. That lines into what everybody else has been doing. Like Xbox has two versions of the Xbox Series. PlayStation 5 has the digital PS5, and it has the regular one with the disc drive, and then the Pro doesn't have. And then obviously you have the Pro as well, so you have three different PS5s basically. Uh, all right, so Dory, I threw a lot at you with this, but this was huge
Yes, you did.
news. Yeah, this was huge news. So let's talk about the hardware for the CES. Do you think that's what it's gonna look like? You feel like that hardware that's exactly what it's gonna be? Like you feel like there's a
Well,
lot of smoke
let's
to this?
Yeah, it would look. I mean, I've seen a couple of mock-ups now, a few different times, and each time it looks very similar to this. I mean, certain buttons are in certain different locations, right? And there's little minor differences, but I mean, they're mock-ups, right? So it's not going to be exact. But yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty similar to probably what's going to be the final product. I don't have a lot invested in this because I don't have a lot invested in Nintendo in their ecosystem. I really just use Nintendo Switch for their first party games and sometimes for indies that I want to play on the go or just like games I can't get elsewhere. Or if they have like a really cheap sale, it's very niche cases at this point. I played my Switch so little that Nintendo was like, when I came to get my 2024 statistics, they were like, "Who the fuck are you? Like, we've never heard of you. Sorry." So yeah, I don't really use my Switch as much. Well, it's not really even mine; it's Kim's. And she's gracious enough to share it with me. But yeah. So I mean, I think it looks viable as a design. I think the magnet stuff sounds cool. The magnetic Joy-Con sounds cool. Um, the mouse-like functionality sounds interesting. The kickstand design makes logical sense. I've also heard rumors that like it's going to open. These are rumors from people online. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying what I've heard. Just putting it out there. But I was looking around at Switch leaks and stuff like that before the podcast was getting started, and somebody was saying like Red Dead 2 is somehow coming to the Switch too, and there's going to be better hardware, and then also Mario Kart 9, and then like you said, the 3D Mario is going to be announced, but not a launch game. So we'll see. Allegedly, some big announcement's going to come this upcoming week. I think on the 17th they said, but this is
Yeah,
a leaker, and we don't
it's Nate
know.
the Hate. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I thought it was a different leaker, but it could have been Nate as well. Um, but yeah. So I mean, I think it seems reasonable that this could be what it looks like. I don't really have any strong feelings on it overall. Like you said, I never had any problems with my Joy-Con in terms of like I've never even had Joy-Con drift, but maybe I haven't played enough to have that happen. But
Yeah, it was
the magnetic thing seems
yeah.
like a cool quality of life, but I didn't never have that issue.
Yeah, so I like I got a new controller now. This is my new controller, and this is a third party controller, and everybody recommends it, and it's phenomenal because it has Hall effect, right? You know what Hall effect is?
I don't actually.
Hall effect is protects your joysticks. Like it's literally impossible to have drift on a Hall effect controller. Like
Oh,
it lasts forever. Um, and big issue with Nintendo, as popular as the Switch was the joystick drift, which I had one time. One of my Joy Cons, but it was very annoying. But otherwise, I had no issues. But it definitely was a big issue. Um, it was like lawsuit territory, I believe. Um, I don't hear about it as much anymore, but I'm not really in the Nintendo spaces. But overall, I think everything I'm seeing seems in the realm of realism. Like I don't see anything that looks absurd. Like everything lines up really well. Like there's like full on videos of like the Switch 2 in action, basically, like at the prototype. And it just looks really real. Like yeah, there's just way too much. It doesn't look like some guy's fake video. It looks like this was actually at the showcase themselves. Like the Joy Cons are literally at the showcase in a case, so it's not just like BS Twitter stuff. What could be BS is the rumors that we talked about. But like again, everything seems in the realm of possibility. Mario Kart being a launch game makes a lot of sense. Red Dead Redemption should have no issues running on a Switch 2 if it's as strong as like a modern handheld that we're getting, right? I don't. A 3D Mario. It's been 8 years since the last 3D Mario, like a new one. So everything lines up really well. Like new having two different models makes sense. Like Dory, what do you think when you see two different models? What do you think that means?
I mean, I think it means that they either haven't fully decided on what it's going to look like, which is kind of crazy because if they're going to announce it, they kind of have to do that real soon. Or maybe they're trying to, I mean, do exactly what's happening here, right? They're trying to confuse people or get them to speculate like we're doing.
Yeah,
It could cause some, buzz, I guess, like that on like what it's going to look like. I mean, what a console looks like. I remember when that used to be a massive deal. It still is a big deal, of course. When we all, I remember when we all speculated on what the PS5 was going to look like, and then I started seeing fucking Seto Kaiba's the jacket on the screen. So it still is a big deal. But yeah, it's part of what drives the console sales is like what it's going to look like. It seems like it's just going to be the Switch, but just like maybe a little bigger, a little more powerful. I mean, and I'm not complaining about that. That's pretty much what it
way more
should be,
powerful,
right?
way more powerful.
Way more powerful, yeah. So, I'm not complaining. That's basically what it should be. I've heard again rumors, leaks, whatever, about $400 as the price tag, which, if true, feels fairly competitive. But again, I have no interest personally. But that seems like a decent price um, for a console slash handheld. I mean, you look at some of the Lenovo stuff that we've been looking at and talking about, $700. Obviously the Switch isn't as powerful as those, but I mean, like the Switch 2, I should say, it maybe not going to be as powerful as that. Probably not. But still impressive to have that price instead, almost half the price of some of the other handhelds.
Yeah, cause like the Steam Deck, the LCD one, the original one is $400. So I'd imagine Switch 2 is gonna be around that. I'm just curious what the models in terms of like, is like one gonna have a better screen than the other? Like I can't imagine there gonna be a digital only version because it just doesn't seem like something Nintendo would do. They would want you to get the cartridges and stuff. So like, there's just so many questions that need to be answered. But like I said, everything seems realistic. So we'll see. It's very exciting. Even if you're not interested, I just love hardware and like talk about gadgets and stuff. So it just interests me to see what actually is the reveal and what it's shown and all that. I'm curious what the colors are gonna be. I do hope we get better colors. One thing I hate about the Joy Cons in the Switch was that there was very limited colors. Like there's some really pretty ones, But overall, I feel like I wanted to do more color combos, and then it was like $80 to buy Joy-Con, so that was a pain in the butt. So we'll see. All right, so let's get to our final topic of the night, which is the RTX series GPUs, the 50 series. Um, this is obviously big news because people have been waiting a while for the new video cards to be revealed. Now, like I said, I'm not getting into the specs and all that stuff. This is not the kind of podcast. But obviously, this is big news as a PC. We're both PC gamers. Dory plays on a gaming laptop. I play on gaming laptop and a desktop. So obviously, it appeals more to me because obviously, 5090 is not going to fit in Dory's laptop. Um, they've already revealed the 5090 laptops and all that stuff, but like that's absurdly priced, and I will never buy a laptop for that price. Because obviously laptops are not as strong as a desktop because desktops are bigger, right? The bigger things are, the more power they have. Anyway, so let's talk about the video cards. So first of all, the 5090. So we had Jensen come on stage. You know, this episode's all about Jensen's, and he had a very shiny, really shiny jacket on. I feel like he had ray tracing on his jacket. Like he just had like so many particle effects, and I don't even know if it was real. But basically, they promised that the 5090 is double the performance of the 4090, which is insane. Uh, Now, like you got to be careful what they say because they're a company that's trying to sell you a product, and they definitely they know how to like word it where it sounds amazing and all that, and they're very misleading. Like, it's where what they're saying is technically true, but it requires like certain graphic settings, the way they do it, like that kind of thing, which we'll talk about later. But anyway, so they say it has 32 gigabytes of GDDR7, according to TheVerge.com, and 21,760 CUDA cores, and it's promised to be twice as good as the 4090. It's priced at $2,000, and it's gonna be available on January 30th, 2025. Now for me personally, I don't feel like I have the power to run a 5090 in my PC. I'd have to upgrade the power supply as well. For me, a 5080 is what I'm aiming for because I have the power supply for a 5080, and it's more realistic for me. For $1,000, I think is better than $2,000 because $1,000 I can make payments and stuff. But before we get into that, we got a reveal of Black State, which is like a sci-fi third-person stealth game developed by Motion Blur, by an indie studio in Istanbul, Turkey. No, Istanbul, Turkey. Sorry. So like an indie company from Turkey, and it's built heavily with Unreal Engine 5.4, featuring photorealistic environments, dynamic interactions with thousands of objects, and advanced path traced visuals. So first of all, this game looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm blown away by the graphics. It's probably one of the prettiest games I've ever seen in my life. It's insane. I'm just curious how much of this is real and how much of this is a tech demo. So it says that at CES 2025, an early alpha build of it was showcased at the 5090 showcase, and it demonstrated smooth 4K performance, leveraging DLSS4 technology to enhance to enhance frame rates and visual fidelity. Notably, this game includes mechanics reminiscent of classics like Metal Gear Solid, and with faster paced action, bullet time, over the top weapons. And additionally, it features the ability to instantly change environments, similar to Ratchet and Clank. So obviously, if you played Rift Apart, how crazy the changing the environments was in that game. So it potentially utilizes technologies like RTX IO or Microsoft's Direct Storage. All right, so Dory, have you seen Black State? Have you any opinions on that one? First of all,
I watched like a minute and 15 seconds of it. I said, "Ooh, that looks pretty," and then I closed the window. Um, yeah, like I was talking earlier with Deus Ex, graphics usually aren't a thing to me that matter a lot. Honestly, and I think it's popular at this point, but certain art styles just age better. Like Wind Waker still looks. We talked about Wind Waker earlier. That still looks timeless, right? I don't. I don't really care about this. I mean, I get that it's big news, and I guess I'm excited for people who are rich and have a lot of time on their hands because that's the kind of person who's probably going to buy this, based on what you said about the price tag. But yeah, I mean, if you're rich and you got time to kill, cool. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I bet it's like some rounding up stuff, like, oh, it's actually 1.8 times better or 1.7, but we round up in this house, so it's actually 2 times
Well,
better. Like you said, they're a company, they're trying to sell you stuff. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not getting that. I'm very happy with my current laptop. I probably am not going to buy another one for at least another 5 years, I hope. But yeah, I have my PS5 to fall back on if something crazy comes out. But I can run Wukong at this point on really high settings, so I'm pretty good. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy for the graphics people who really love the stuff, but it doesn't move me. And like you said, when I'm watching it, I'm like, how much of this is like stuff that's in the game and stuff that's just real, or
sure.
I don't know. It doesn't do a lot for me. I want to see gameplay. I want to see a focus on that more than I want to see focus on stunning graphics. The graphics can speak for themselves and the gameplay can speak for themselves. But
Sure.
talk about engines and RTX and GeForce and all that stuff. It's not really why I'm into gaming. I do understand some of it better than I did years ago, especially as someone who had to make her own decisions about what laptop I wanted and why. So I
Yeah.
do understand it a little more, and like I respect the people like the people who are able to make a living off explaining that on YouTube. But yeah, overall, it's like, eh.
Yeah. Well, the price tag for $2,000 is definitely for the most premium of people. I- Most gamers on PC, like as much as we were claiming, they're considered the master race and they pump their chest and all that. Most people do not have the highest graphic cards, nor should you have the highest graphic cards because A, you don't need it, and B, it's very expensive. And for what? Technology gets better every year. You can't keep up. So it's better to wait and get things when they're on a better deal. But if you have the money, then knock yourself out, right? 5090 for me is too pricey. It's just $2,000. Technically, I could make payments if I really wanted it, but then I have to upgrade my power supply. And what am I really getting out of it? I feel like my 4080 already is overkill for most games. I'm already getting ultra settings on like every game, pretty much. There's some exceptions like Indiana Jones that I had to play around with, but even then I was getting really high settings that really wouldn't care. So, but the big thing out of this as well with the 5090 is the DLS4, which is the introduction of deep learning super sampling 4. That's what it's called. Um, it's using AI to enhance frame generation. So yes, graphics are not everything, but this also enhances the frame rate, which frame rate is definitely important. I think performance is important. But so basically what this does is it produces up to 3 additional frames per every one traditional rendered frame, and this significantly boosts frame rates and visual quality in supported games. So basically, for less power, you get better frame rate and better visuals. That's why the 5090s had like less ports, less power supply than the 4090 because they can do more with this AI technology, which is really cool. But the problem is that people have, and then people have said this, is that when they put DLSS on, and yes, it gives you like artificial frames with the AI and everything. It gives you way more detail. Like they showed an example of Horizon Forbidden West and like how more detailed Aloy's uh outfit was, her bag and stuff. And yeah, you can see it, but when you're actually playing the game, people claim that it doesn't look real as well as native games. Like the AI frame rate has issues. So I just before I get excited for this, I need to see gameplay of actual games, not just like demos and tech demos of things. I mean, I want to see actual things like actually things happening. They're not just like 5 20-second snippets. I need to see 250 frames per second in a game in action for like 10 minutes. All right, so it it's cool on paper. I think this is really cool. AI is not going anywhere. People just need to get over that. Like it's just it's part of hardware now. Like I have no problems with hardware AI if it's done with tool as a tool for developers. But I need to see this in real time. This is just selling me on just nonsense if I don't see actual gameplay. So 5090 for me is too much. It's a premium, and I'm not going to get a 5090. A 5080 now is more on where I'm interested in, and I might get at the end of the month, or I'll wait. Either way, 5080 is more what I'm probably going to get. Do I have to get one? Probably not. I can wait. It's not my 4080 is perfectly fine. I'm very happy with my 4080. And I will try not to get into the FOMO because that could be dangerous too. But it definitely, according to them, is way better than the 4080. So it's definitely an improvement. It's not like I'm paying just to get little improvements. They seem significant, but again, give me some gameplay. So this one, so 5080 is $1,000, which is way more affordable for me than $2,000. It's a big difference, and that comes out January 30th as well. And then you have the 5070 Ti and the 5070. Now, they claim that the 5070 is able to match the 4090 in performance using the DLS4 technology, which is, again, it creates artificial frames using that technology with AI. Dory, are you understanding that when I explain the DLS4? Like, does that make sense? What it does? It creates
Basically,
the AI
sorry,
creates
go ahead.
the AI creates frame rates. Like it creates details using like this
Right, it's frame
artificial.
generation. You can do it. You can
Yeah.
kind of do it in Wukong, right?
Yes. So apparently
Sorry.
this $549 video card, which is the 5070, can match the 4090, which is like what, $1,500, $1,600. That's their claim, and people were saying no way. Well, it can, but the catch is it's not natively, but when using DLS4, it can. But like as I said with DLS4, it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't look as good as native. Like you can see like the artificial frames. Like you can see something looks off, according to people. It's very subjective, of course, but you know what I'm saying. Does that make sense, Dory? That like it doesn't things gonna look as good as natively as they do when they have like artificial frames. So like technically it could match the 4090, but is it gonna look as good as a native powerful video card? That's what they claim. So I don't really believe that.
Okay.
I think it's misleading the way they worded it. It makes sense when they have the artificial frame rates on, but obviously it doesn't look as good as native games. So it's very misleading. But if you're looking to upgrade, like you have nothing. Like let's say if you're like really old like video card, like say you have a 2080 Super, then a 549 video card is a great deal. I think that's if I was like upgrading my PC and I was like my video card is quite old and I'm like 5 years, 6 years behind. I feel like the 5070 Ti and the 5070 are the best priced out of all of these because the 5070 Ti is $749 and the 5070 is $549. And yeah, you're not getting like the 5080 and 5090 performances, but like that's a significant, and I mean a significant upgrade from what you had, right? So if I was
Right.
gaming and I wanted to upgrade my PC, that's what I would look at personally. Even for me, a 5080 is like premium. I really don't need it. Just something I'm interested in. But I just overall, I think the pricing was surprisingly not bad. I think that was the overall like impression. People were really expecting these video cards to be way worse in price because AMD is not competing with Nvidia. So Nvidia is like in their own race basically. You know, like how PlayStation is like not in a race with Xbox anymore. So like PlayStation can do whatever the hell they want and they get away with it. Nvidia is the same thing with AMD. So people were worried, but the video pricing is not that bad. 5090 is just ridiculous. I don't. Does anyone who has $2,000 just to blow like that? Unless you really want the best of the best. But like, yeah. So that's that. I know Dory, not your thing with the hardware and everything, but this is the biggest news of the week, obviously, because these are the new PC video cards. So, I just wanted to mention it. Yeah. So 5080s where I'm leaning. If I was upgrading, if I was recommending to people who are far behind with their video cards, I would get a 5070 Ti or 5070. All right. So that's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody. Uh, Next week, I think Dynasty Warriors comes out or something. I don't know, but we'll just talk about more news, I guess. January's kind of dry right now. We'll see if we get anything new, but yeah, it was a great show. I feel like there was a lot to talk about this week, and next week might not be as long because there may not be as much news. This was a crazy week. Or next week we get the Switch 2 reveal, so
Right.
we'll
Who
see.
knows?
Yeah. All right, Dory, thanks for listening to my tech show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I totally like phased out in and out of existence, and you're like, does that make sense, Dory? And I'm like, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
I try to
sure.
keep it as simple as possible because I don't want to get too much
No, I
detail.
know.
But AI basically makes artificial
Yeah.
frames. All right. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. You all have a good night. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye, everybody. Watch out for the Illuminati, okay? Be careful.